Free Thought Forum. Quickly, I need to get out of the way a disclaimer. The opinions and comments expressed here do not reflect the opinions of WRCT TV or the City of York. It's just me and the guests and those who are on camera. Today, our guest is Nancy Derrick with Joy-El Ministries. Joy-El Ministries helps administer and organize a release time program for local schools. And currently we have a program going for Dover School District. Is that correct? Okay.
York County.
York County, yeah. And do you have many more in the area?
There are several throughout 4 counties. We have programs in 4 counties, and quite widespread.
Okay.
There are about 500 students involved in York, in
Wow,
the York
just
area.
In York. Well, that's a lot.
Yes.
Okay. Nancy, do you want to help explain, or just kind of explain what release time is, and then also, and then from there, kind of what Joy-El, how they work to set that up and everything.
Absolutely. The Release Time Bible Program is a program that has been approved. There's one in every state. Pennsylvania has its own unique law. The law of Pennsylvania states that if anyone wants to sign their children up for religious education, they could do that. They get 36 hours a year to do that, and they're allowed to leave their school for that. For instance, any parent can actually do that if they just want to do it by themselves and say, we want to take our child out for religious instruction. They're allowed to do that. Joy-El Ministries has been operating the Release Time Bible Program for 45 years, and they do it. It's a great program. They offer it to school children, and they hand out permission forms, and they abide by, we have to abide by the laws or the school district policies, and in their distribution policies, each school has their own distribution policy, so we follow those.
Is that distribution as far as like how, you mean like
literature?
Flyers? Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So, right, one school district may say that kids can come pick them up at a table, where any child can come pick them up. Others may hand them out to each student so they can take them home. Each school is different, but we abide by those policies, and then the children are informed about the program, and they're able to sign up. And then we take them to a location off the school property. We transport them. Sometimes we walk them, depending on where the location is, and then we do it for an hour a week, and we plan for about 30 to 32 hours weeks a year. We often don't get that with snow days and different programs. We might cancel it. We want to work with the schools. We don't want to work in opposition to them. So if they have an assembly of some sort, then we will allow them to, keep the kids that week, or if they request or something. We usually get them about 30 hours a week, a year, right, 30 weeks.
Right.
But and there are in 4 counties, and I'm not actually from York, so I probably can't give you a lot of the details specifically about York, but Franklin County, Fulton County, Washington County, Maryland now, and then York County, and we're actually have some in West.
And that's just Joy-El.
In Lancaster, sorry.
Yeah. So, but you're just describing Joy-El Ministries,
right? And let me change that. I was involved in the 4 county area. There were more than 4 counties. I'm sorry.
For just
Joy-El?
Joy-El?
I was thinking of just the area that I operated in, but there were many more counties. Yeah.
So I saw Joy-El's ministry, or Joy-El website was like it was like joyelcamps.com or something like that. Are they a national organization, or are they just regional?
No, it's South Central Pennsylvania. But
okay.
they have 3 different programs. One of them is the Release Time Bible Program.
Okay.
But they do have a camping program as well.
Yeah, they had like a Bible camp type of a thing, it looked like.
Right.
So then, do they, now, like you said, with the transportation, like sometimes you walk the kids, is the aim to try and get, now Joy-El doesn't have its own buildings, like its own churches, is that?
Right.
Okay, so so Joy-El is kind of like a middleman to try and find.
Well, they have a building where the camp is. They're not for the Release Time Bible Program. They do have a building. But as far as the Release Time Bible program, you're right. We try and find the nearest location that we can just to save in transportation time.
Yeah.
We generally get an hour from the time the students are released from school, and that's why we call it release time, till the time we have to drop them back off. So if we have 15 minutes transportation, we don't have much time to do
That's
those
only
kids.
like a half hour,
Right.
15 minutes out. 15. But
Right.
most schools are right near a church,
Right.
like right across the street,
Right.
or even share a parking lot or something like that.
Exactly.
So I guess your aim would be to try to get that church every
Exactly.
time.
Exactly.
Does denominations get into? Does that make it complicated? Like if well, yeah, okay. So like if a parent is Calvinist,
Mm-hmm.
and the Release Time program will be held at a Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in those situations, is it just that the Calvinist parents don't participate, or do they?
I don't think that's so. We are not a non-denominational ministry. We don't hold to any denomination. We actually ask our volunteers not to get involved in denominational differences because that's not the purpose of the program. And so we generally try and stay away from denominational differences. So we will just try and find, sometimes we'll meet in fire halls, places like that as well, community centers. But as far as the denominations, we have on our permission form that or in the volunteer application where where the volunteers have to sign up to participate in the program, they actually have to say, they are signing that they're not going to get involved in differences that are going to create any kind of tensions or something, or confuse the students, or things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, because well then how do you accommodate? Okay, so Joy-El Ministries would only be providing the service for Christian students that are under the umbrella of Christianity, whatever those denominations would be. How do you? Isn't it kind of hard? Like, what would you teach to make sure that you didn't exclude any particular denomination?
Right. Well, our program is drawn up. We have a curriculum director and who writes our program, and it's taken strictly from the Bible. So the Bible is the source, and we just don't get into denominational differences. So it is, but it's not just for Christians, because we have many students who are not churched at all, and the parents actually don't have any church background, who choose to send their kids to this program. So it's not just for Christian kids, but the curriculum is the Bible.
Okay. Well, yeah, that you mentioned about, like, you don't want to confuse the kids, but, like, that's kind of, because all of the different denominations think they're based on the Bible. It's not like they're saying, well, except for Mormonism, I guess, they have an additional book. But, yeah, I don't know, I guess that just would be difficult to try and, not step on anyone's toes when you have all these different ideas there.
Well, you do have to be careful, that's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to talk about the history of Release Time? I guess you probably know more about it than I do.
Release times, I'm not going to get my dates exactly right, but I believe in the early 20s or something, it was established that the children could be released for religious education. It has been taken to the Supreme Court. It has been upheld by the Supreme Court, the right to do that. Now, Pennsylvania, like I said, their law actually is a very generous law, if I can put it that way, in that, like I said, if just a parent wanted to take their child out, they could. I had heard of release times actually in the Philadelphia area that have done it over a 3-day, over like a 3-day kind of retreat idea. They take the 36 hours,
All
all at once. I know that out west, the Mormons actually do it, because it's just religious education. I know in New York, there are Jewish groups who do it. So it is for religious education, and I think it's a wonderful law because it enables the parent to do that if they like.
Well, why wouldn't they just do that on their own? Like, they have from Friday afternoon until Monday morning to do that, or even throughout the week. And some churches have. A lot of churches actually do have their Bible study and their youth classes in the evenings during the week too. Why would that not be enough?
That's an excellent question. And, I was not raised in the church. I didn't go to Sunday school when I was young. I never went to any, I had a babysitter that took me occasionally to church. But what I found, it's interesting because I did raise my kids in the church, but looking around at the kids that sign up, parents who sign their kids up, I'm always intrigued because many parents sign their kids up. I think they think, I believe that they know that some type of religious education would be good for their kids. Because character's involved, morals are involved, and I believe deep down people think that's a good thing. And so they sign their kids up for something maybe they don't know about themselves, or maybe they don't know where to go. Sometimes churches are scary to go into if you're not familiar with a church, but this is one way. I mean, that's, we haven't polled every parent who signs up their kids, and some are kids who actually go to church. Sometimes those who go to church, the parents choose not to send them to release time. It's really a mixed bag, but it's the beauty of it. I think it's it's not all just one type of person or family, or it's amazing.
My personal experience, I've often heard from people that may not, I don't know, from my personal life experience, I would say, like most people that I have met or been around throughout my life, don't regularly go to church. Not that I'm not saying they're atheists or anything like that. I'm just saying the average person that I've been in contact with throughout my life tends to not be a regular churchgoer, and maybe not even so much, maybe not atheistic, but maybe just has other things in their mind, and they just live their life. But then they say things like you were saying there, is like they'll say things, well, I'd like my kid to get to know something about that, or whatever. They, get some sort of religious instruction, or whatever, even though they themselves are not going to dedicate the, the time and energy and thought involved in figuring out theology for themselves. I think it gets kind of deep. So yeah, I guess I can understand that.
And I do think that's a good idea, because how will they ever learn? We have kids, I mean, maybe this will surprise you, but kids who've never heard of Jesus, period. Or kids that see a manger scene at Christmas and have no idea what that's about. Yeah. Now, to you and me, I mean, you're younger than I am, but in my generation, that would have been unheard of, I think, just to not know.
I would be pleased if that were the case. Now, obviously, we're going to have different views, but I mean, like, that would be, it would be odd to come across someone who had never heard of that, like, and here in America, or even in the West, pretty much anywhere, you would be surprised to find someone that didn't know who Jesus was, or what the Bible's about, or any of that stuff. That would be very strange. But let's see, I'm getting lost on my train of thought here. So, I mean, the conditions of the release time is not, like, if a school has a program doing it, it's all opt-in. Like, the children are not compelled to go, or
absolutely not at all. Now, as a matter of fact, sometimes children want to come and their parents have not signed them out. We will not take them without a parental signature.
Well, it's probably illegal to remove.
Well, it is. Yeah. It is. But there are some who try. There are some kids who want to, who see the group leaving, and oh, I want to go along. Sometimes kids want to go. Frankly, sometimes kids want to go for what, because they can get out of school for an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
I can see that. Definitely. Like, especially in the older grades, like, whatever, like 16-year-olds are probably going to want to get out of school as much as they can. But we especially don't feel if there's a girl going there.
Right? That could be. But we don't really, we just feel like it's okay. We'll teach them what we can,
What would a kid have to do? This is just off the top of my head. What would a kid have to do to get kicked out of like, I would imagine there would have to be some sort of limits.
Well, that's a very good question, because discipline is important. I believe discipline is very important, and there are times where kids will definitely try you, or they'll be defiant to your face. They'll be absolutely defiant, and they will refuse. Most of our, we are run by volunteers. 1,300 volunteers run our program. It's quite extensive. 3,300 students are involved, but there are some volunteers are very lenient and willing to tolerate behavior. We try and discipline them. Sometimes schools will work with us, actually. Some schools will say, if we consider them not in our program at the time, but they're still under school authority, kind of, and they will kind of work with us.
Yeah, I guess it would be similar to like a field trip or something.
Right.
They still have to.
Right. And that's wonderful when the schools are willing to, and they say, you know, if a child has a problem with you, I want to know about it, you know, and that helps us because we're able to say, you know what, we're going to report this back to other, and the schools don't have to do that. Some schools, you know, they're like, you've got them for the hour, but we believe in disciplining them. We actually have a policy on the books that says if the kids refuse, you know, after so many times, if they just will not listen, we have the right. It's a privilege to come, and we have the right, just like driving's a privilege, you know, in Pennsylvania, it's not a right. But just, you know, that we could say to them, you know what, we're going to ask you not to come back for 2 weeks. We're going to call your parents and tell them that we're going to ask you this and let them know, and that if you change your behavior, and then you can come back, and if you change your behavior, we'd love to have you back. You know, but telling them the choice is theirs, putting it back on them, saying the choice is yours, really.
Now, what about behavior, like not so much as acting out, but like just asking questions?
We encourage it. We really encourage.
My experience, and most of the non-believers I know, they seem to share this experience, is when I've asked questions and I don't get the answer, I get a response with as far as religious stuff. So then I'll have to ask the question again, because it seems like they know what I'm asking, and they know what the answer is, and they don't want to say what the answer is. So they give a response to get around it, and they'll just do that forever, and then eventually we get fed up and just leave. And that accounts for probably 50% of non-believers, is just that, the frustration of not being given straightforward answers on things. For a child, I mean, that's really frustrating. Like, when you're honestly trying to take seriously something that's being told to you that this is real, this actually happened for real, this guy died, and then without any rocket packs or helicopters or anything, he came back to life and flew into the sky. Now, like a 16-year-old is going to hear that, or even an 8-year-old, you know, they're going to be like, no, that doesn't make any sense, you know. So if you ask questions, you'll get odd responses like, well, God works in mysterious ways or whatever, you know, things like that. That is not an answer. That is deflection or avoidance of, you know, the laws of realities that you don't have to. So if a child would, you know, kind of keep pressing that, would that kind of count as like disruptive? Or because what if his criticism and skepticism spreads to the other kids? You know, does that become like a problem that he needs to be removed?
You know what you're describing, I personally haven't seen. And I've gone to so many release times. I'm being very honest with you.
Yeah,
I've been to so many release times. I have not seen where there's a child that is just, you know, has a train of thought that they want to keep going. You know, there are times when they ask a question off subject that is hard to get into during the teaching time, and we'll say, you know, can we talk to you about that later? You know, not to deflect them, but just because our time is so limited. We really value our time.
Yeah.
And every volunteer, to be honest with you, when they say, what don't you like about release time, they say it's too short. I mean, every volunteer, it's almost unanimous. I'm sure there's some that have a few other things to say, but it's just the hour's way too short.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe, I have never seen where I felt like someone was brushing someone aside and not taking seriously. I mean, I don't believe that. On the other hand, when you're talking about God, there are things that we can't possibly explain as humans. You know, we can't explain how Jesus rose from the dead.
How could you explain that? Like, how could that be considered education then? Like, if you're not explaining it, then what are you doing? You're asking the child to just believe it with faith, I guess, right?
Right. I mean, you're teaching the Bible as God's word. It's, you know, it's God's word to man, and you're teaching that as God's word. Now, God's a mystery. You know, I mean, we can know him in part, but there's no way we can fully know him. He allows us to know him partially, but there's no way, you know, here we're going to fully understand him or his ways. So it is, a lot of it is faith. I mean, definitely, you know, there's a lot of faith involved, which I would submit that you have faith in your beliefs too. It takes faith to believe in some things because we don't have concrete evidence for everything.
Well, yeah, but there's certain rules of thought that you can follow. Like, what do you have the best reason to believe? Or what is the best explanation I have at this time? And then sometimes it's just, I don't know. You know? And that's going to have to satisfy me. If I don't know the answer, that's all there is to it. I just don't know. Trying to think, where can I get back to the things we had discussed here?
And there are volunteers, honestly, who would be glad to meet with kids, you know, to discuss in-depth things that they would like to, you know, outside, I'm sure, you know.
Oh, I was going to say, with the shortness of the time, I would imagine in most sessions are really only about a half hour because of the time of getting the kids just to gather their coat and their bag and you know everything, and then getting to the facility at release time is at, taking their coat off, you know, finally sitting down after their, you know, they usually want to chat and stuff,
Right.
And then when they go home or when they go back to school, I would imagine you really only get like maybe 35 minutes of actual.
That's a good
quality
approximation.
time.
You know, let me explain an hour because that's a very good thing to bring up. Generally, like I said, let's say it's you know 1:30 to 2:30. At 1:30, our volunteers will be at the school and they'll be ready to either load them onto a bus or to walk with them, and then they'll be transported. Let's say 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes is ideal. But you know, there might be a few straggler kids who are coming off the playground or who, you know,
There
and they're
probably
saying,
always is.
there are, and walking in a sense can be a little bit better because there can be a walker or two left behind to get those stragglers. But when you're on a bus, you know, sometimes with the time involved, sometimes unfortunately you have to leave some behind if they're just not there because our hour is important. And they come into class, and then they'll have usually, and it might vary. You know, they're all none of them are cookie cutters. They're not all identical. Everyone is unique, but they'll have a time of singing. They'll have a few songs, and they might have a few announcements. For instance, like you said, we have a camp, and so we have retreats for kids that will announce, you know, hey, this December, first weekend in December is an elementary retreat. You know, if you want to come up to camp and that type of thing. And then there's the teaching time, and the teaching time generally is 15 to 20 minutes, not much more, because they are very limited. But the heart of release time that Joy-El runs is really the listening time. And after the teaching time, they break up into groups. Our desire is for 1 adult to 3 kids. That's why we have so many volunteers, because we like the kids to break up into these small groups where they can really talk about things. That's really where the questions will come, you know, that you might not have been able to answer in a teaching situation. Okay. But that's really the heart of Joy-El's ministry, because it's a relational ministry. Joy-El really desires to build relationships with those kids, not just, hey, how are you? You know, we want you to learn this. You know, that's not it. We want to build a relationship and get to know the kids. And the wonderful thing is, you see these kids out in the community. They come up and they're like, you're my listener, and you know, they're glad to see you. They feel a connection there, and that's really the heart of Joy-El's ministry. And so the listening time is very important, and that's the time when the kids we encourage kids to memorize Bible verses, and we'll give them points for that. It's not about points, but we do encourage them that way. I mean, that's not what our ministry, the main thing, but we do that to give them incentive. And so at that time, they'll recite a Bible verse that'll be recorded on paper. I just mean that, you know, it'll be checked off, not recorded audibly, but and that type of thing. And that's when you build a relationship. Hey, how's everything going this week? And you know, how's your grandmother doing? We knew she was in the hospital. We've been praying for her. You know, that type of thing.
Yeah, that kind of answers what the one question I was getting to was: does the short time not allow much time for the kids to even ask to be critical? But you explained the listening time, so I guess they get to work out as much as they can during that brief time. Like you said, splitting them into groups. With it being education, you said like with the points or whatever, like are there tests? Like
no.
So how do you gauge their progress?
You know what? It's we can't. You know, some kids we encourage them to memorize Bible verses. You know, some kids will take it seriously and try. Others won't. You know what? We don't prohibit them from coming. We don't say, well, you need to do this in order to keep coming. You know what? We leave it up to the heart of the child. Whether they're interested or not. You know, we encourage them to do because we think it's good. But some do and some don't. And so there's nothing like tests that, you know, they need to prove they're able to be there, you know. Or
that they're even getting anything out of it.
Right, exactly. We trust God in that. You know what?
There's one test, and that's when they die.
Well, we trust God in moving their hearts the way they, you know. And you know what?
It's funny how that doesn't work for English, math, science, or any other subject. You know, we have to have actual verification and hard facts on what they're doing. So...
But But if they want the point, they have to say the verse. So in that sense,
Yeah.
you know.
So I mean, I guess so. Really, it's just to familiarize the children with this cultural. I mean, I mean, you clearly can't get that far into like the deep theological underpinnings of this or that. You know, whatever Mark meant by this, or you can't really get at that.
Right.
So I guess without being able to really like grade them or whatever, it's more just trying to familiarize them with a cultural sort of a thing going on. Here's, if you're a Christian, this is what you would be familiar with at least, even if you don't memorize it. But I mean, you're getting them to memorize the verses. And now, do you get into like with the higher levels, like whatever, like 12th grade, 11th grade? Would those be more complicated than?
Yes, and yeah, mostly our upper level classes are what we call CIAs. It stands for Christians in Action, and they're mostly middle school. And the numbers drop considerably when we get to that age. Kids are involved in so many other things these days, and so whereas every elementary school in Franklin County has a release time, and I think there's one, since they've done some changes with the schools. I think there's one middle school that doesn't. But the numbers drop, and so the kids are going elsewhere, and they're in band or they're in different things. But the curriculum is different, but it is still Bible based. The same person who does the curriculum for the elementary is doing it. Still Bible truths. So.
Well, what I mean is, like, would it be more in depth,
right?
Like with the maybe going into more,
right?
With and how this verse relates to this other verse, and
right.
What is the underlying? What did so and so mean when he said this?
Yeah, you definitely have time. And one of the things about the CIA programs is some of them, are after school programs, and they actually go for 2.5 hours, so they do have time to get involved in discussion. Yeah. They'll have a snack, and they'll have a game, and they'll have the after school programs. Some are in school, and some are actually only 40 minutes, believe it or not, which gives you really little time to have them.
Let's see where I left off on my little checklist here.
And that gets back, one of the things when you said that, if I can interrupt, it gets back to the denominational difference that, we don't have time to really get into that.
Yeah,
there have been very few incidences where, we feel like someone's getting into an area that we don't want them to go down.
Or where maybe a parent came back and said, hey, why did you tell my kid this? That's not what we believe.
Right. Yeah. Mentioning parents, one of the things we see is that parents actually learn from their kids. The parents who, like you described, might think, oh, there's something to this, but I don't have the time. I don't know where to go to church, but I think it's probably good that they're learning some kind of church background or Bible teaching or whatever they're thinking. And, oftentimes those parents will actually learn from the kids. The kids will take it home and they'll learn. We had a parent one time who, we give free Bibles to the kids who don't have one. And one time we had a parent call in to the coordinator and say, I saw my son's Bible, I started reading it. Hey, can you recommend a church to me? So in that sense, the child was impacting and influencing a parent.
Now, in that kind of situation, I don't know if you can answer this. In that kind of situation, is Joy-El, is there a particular type of church that they would sponsor more or endorse more?
No, they do not. It's really up to the volunteers who take the phone calls, and they can say, we don't recommend a denomination, but here are some churches in the area.
Well, that is kind of recommending a denomination.
Well, but they would recommend several different denominations. Okay. It wouldn't be just one denomination. Okay. Or they might say, I go to, and we'd love to have you come. But, it's not about pushing a church. I just have never seen that. You would
get a little too political. Like,
yeah.
That would be something I wouldn't want to get into if I were.
And Joy-El does
not. Yeah. Okay, just to clarify, the students do not miss educational time, like time that they would have a math class. It's like the downtime periods where like study hall or something like that. Is that
That's
correct?
A good question. Actually, they can miss the education time. It depends on the school. It depends on how many kids are participating. Some schools will purposely teach, if there's large participation of students, they'll stay away from the major subjects during that time. We like to cooperate with the schools and work with them, so
Oh, we'll have a call in a minute.
Okay.
You can finish your thought.
Okay, so based on that, we try and, you know, if they want us to meet in the afternoon because their core subjects are done, then we'll meet in the afternoon with them. So anyway, we can get back to this if there's a call. But
I think they hung up, actually.
oh, did they?
Free Thought Forum. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi. Can you turn your TV down a little bit?
I just did.
Oh, thanks.
I just mooted it.
All right.
It's a moot point now.
Do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Well, they just answered one question, and that was, you know, what subjects are not taught to the students because of release time. And I believe the guest said that you are only, that they only miss like study halls and things like that.
No, that's what I had asked, but no, she clarified that in some situations it may be a more
Core subject.
yeah, more core subject in certain situations in certain schools.
Okay, I mean, currently, the educational level of the U.S., of the 36 industrialized nations, the United States runs, or is ranked 18th. And I can't hear, okay, anyway, what I'm, you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yeah. The sound is somewhat terrible on the TV.
Yeah, sorry. We have a fan. There's a fan here, I think, in the background.
Okay. Anyway, in today's economy, okay, people, when they apply for jobs, and also when people put ads in papers for jobs, at no place does it ever ask for a knowledge of the Bible, a degree in divinity, and everything. So how really, in the U.S. economy, how is this release program helping our country to recover?
Well, that's an interesting question. You're looking to me to answer it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, how is release time useful and yeah, productive and helping us in those various different ways that you mentioned?
Yeah, I would say the purpose of release time is really not at all. It has nothing to do with that, frankly. It's just teaching the kids about God who created them, the God who loves them. It's teaching them what they don't, you know, what they're not learning in school, and that's why there's a release time program that's a release time law that allows the kids to come out and learn something that they're not learning in school. And as far as us being, United States being low on the academic, I mean, I can't speak to that only because that's really not related to release time. So it's really not related, but we think what we're teaching them is very valuable. You know, we've seen kids' lives change based on what has been taught. It is a choice. It's not anything that they're forced to do. You know, we just are very pleased to be doing it and glad to have this opportunity to reach those kids.
You know, a lot of kids that I remember when I was in school back in the Stone Age, and my kids, you know, if they were given any opportunity to have a sort of a legal truancy, even if it meant going to school for religion, would sort of opt out. This doesn't really sound much like it is teaching them anything except dogma and superstition, and that can be taught in churches and in the home.
Well, the way it works, I mean, they are taught this in a church. It's probably helpful to think about it as it's Sunday school deferred out of Sunday into the work week, basically. And that would be where I would, it doesn't make much sense to me. Why don't they just take their kids? If they want their kids to learn religion so bad, what's wrong with waking up Sunday morning and taking your kid to church so he can learn it there, rather than relying on the school system to get all the kids in one place so that a church can go and call them up and put them here so we can take them out of school for an hour. That would be my issue with it, I guess. If
You say that it is important and it is good, but how is it improving the United States economy today? Like I said, teaching dogma when old reading, writing, and arithmetic are what are required to help rebuild the infrastructure of the United States.
Yeah, see, I feel your question's getting more into, it sounds like your question's getting into the lack of general skills that they're not being taught, and I can't speak to that. I mean, I can't speak to what the schools are teaching or not teaching. I can only speak to the fact that for the hour we take them. I can say this, though. There was a school that questioned the value of our taking the kids, and they actually had some test scores. The PSSA scores were not that great, and we did suggest, and they actually made the suggestion that perhaps the release time kids were being hurt because of those test scores, and we gave them the names of every student from their school that was involved, and they ran their test scores, and their test scores were actually higher than the average of their kids. So in that instance, it was disproved that it hurt their education, or proved that it didn't hurt their education. As a matter of fact, a study was done in Oakland, California, that I know Joy-El has the results of, that shows that kids involved in release time actually have done better in testing scores. So as far as bettering the economy, I don't know, our economy is pretty bad off, and I don't see it getting better regardless. But it definitely, we believe it has value for the full person, well-rounded person. But that's not our reason for doing it.
I thank you very much for answering my question, and all I can say is that I urge other people to call in at this time, because this is definitely a hot button issue with both the believer and the non-believer. So I thank you very much, and you take care. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
caller.
calling. I would like to
I gotta
finish.
do something here? Uh-oh. There, how about that?
Can I
Okay.
finish with the question we were talking about before he called? Because I just
Sure.
didn't feel like about what is being taught, while the kids are gone. Because there
Oh,
are
yeah.
schools that do. I don't feel like I've answered that thoroughly. The students are responsible for making up the work they miss, and I want that to be well known. I mean, they are responsible for finding out what homework they need to do, or what, if an assignment was done that day. It's just as if they missed it while they were sick. It is their responsibility. The
So
teacher
this-
doesn't track them down and say,
Yeah.
hey, Robert, you know what?
So the school's pretty hands-off on this. It's
Right.
like,
It's
all right,
the
if you want to go
students.
do that, you can go do that. But
Right.
you still have obligations to your
Right.
education.
And so, and so if they miss something major, it's their obligation to make it up.
Okay.
Now, the school has to give them the right, because it is a legal absence, has to make that time for them if they miss a test, to give them the test.
Yeah.
But it's the student's responsibility to find out.
Now, I don't know if you would be able to even answer this, but I don't know. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. But would you know of any religions or denominations or sects or cultures or maybe cults, I guess, that would not or have had problems having a release time program, like someone had mentioned to me the other day about, like, could the Church of Satan do this? Like, could Scientologists do this? Would there? I mean, legally, I would imagine they would, if they were refused, they would go to court and they would win.
Right.
But are you aware of anything?
Yeah, I am not aware
Yeah.
of that. As a matter of fact, I'm only aware of a few organizations that actually run the release time. Now, like I said, I've heard of them. In other places, I've seen, on websites about Jewish, ones
Yeah.
in New York and Mormons out west, but it does say religion. The law says religion. So
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about America is, you give parents these choices to sign their kids up, and you know what? As a parent, I would rather have had these invitations and be able to choose with my kids. If the Muslims, had one and they brought one home my kids brought one home, say inviting them to a release time. You know what? It would give me a door of opportunity to talk to them, and why I wouldn't choose to do that.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of living in America, and we are providing a choice and an opportunity. No one's coerced. It's just, something that is, I think it's wonderful. But,
there was another point that I wanted to bring up. The students who don't participate, now let's say in those situations where like half of a class does this. Now I imagine that's probably rare, but should that were to happen, like how are the students that don't participate, are they affected at all, or you probably haven't done any sort of measurement of that anyway? You wouldn't know, I guess, because that's not who you're in contact with.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be an interesting thing, I guess, for someone to look into. If anybody out there wants to conduct a poll or survey. And the education then, now like we discussed, or like you had said, like there's not really a way to measure progress. It's not like the release time class is going to teach kids. It's not like the idea is become a better Christian or get to heaven faster or anything like that. It's so are the classes more of teaching about the Bible, or is it like teaching to believe is it education or indoctrination, or like if I had my own child and I wanted to send them there just to learn, like how I think everybody kind of knows there's a difference between what I would assume goes on at release time and what a religious studies or comparative religion course would be at school. The difference would be, I know what the comparative religion course is going to just teach about various different religions.
Right.
And you could fail. There are facts you can know about each religion. Not necessarily kind of trying to spread mythology, but just teach about mythology. Like we could learn about Zeus, or we could learn about whatever other mythology. I'm going to try and inform this.
Well,
as a
I
question.
can answer it. I can go ahead and answer, because we teach that the Bible is true. So, we do teach it. We believe that, and that's what, we believe it's God's word, and so we teach that the Bible is truth. And, so indoctrinate, you might call it that, but we believe it's teaching truth.
Okay.
And so, we're not going to back off and tiptoe around it, and act like we're not there for what we're there for.
Yeah, I'm not saying you don't have a right to do that either.
Right, but for if you don't believe it, then it would be indoctrinate. You would think that it's indoctrination.
Yeah. Like if I don't believe that 2 + 2 = 4, and someone keeps telling me that it is, that's,
right.
They're trying to change my mind.
But we unequivocally, that's one of the first lessons. We teach that the Bible's true. So then when we teach things from the Bible, we teach that, God's word says, and this is what happened. So,
And kids don't say, prove it.
You know what? There are kids who respond and kids who don't. No. I'll tell you this. Jesus says you have to come to him like a child. And children are not hardened. I'm an adult, I know. Adults get hardened. Adults get skeptic. Adults get, whatever. I think it's not as attractive as a child. I think adults, something about a child is beautiful and I don't mean just because they believe in God. Children are just, they're very faithful. They believe their parent. You know what?
Yeah.
They'll fall. Well, I wouldn't say that. You know what? If a child stood up here and the dad was over here and said, "Fall back on me, I'll catch you," the child's going to do it because he trusts. There's just a trust and faith there that we as adults look back and say, "Oh, are you sure? I don't know if you can catch me."
Because we know
that's
of
a bad
the
example,
consequences. Okay.
But
I'll let you go.
It's just
that.
okay. Thanks. Yeah, because I'm not coming up with a better one right now.
But
there's something beautiful about children, and it's not that they all believe, but
do you talk? Would Joy-El in their release time programs would they spend any time talking about other religions? and like the differences, like
Sure, if
you're mostly
someone
doing
asks,
Christianity.
if someone asks, right. We're teaching
You're
the
probably not
Bible,
going to
so
spend a
that's
day on
Christianity.
Islam or
Right, we're not
Taoism
teaching
or
other
something.
we're not teaching other religions, right? But if there was a student who had a background or some knowledge of something and they wanted to know, absolutely, we we'd probably say something. I mean, or I'll get back to you, or let me research and find out. But we don't want to brush aside what they have to.
Yeah.
The questions they have, we take them seriously.
Okay. See, I'm still thinking about the education part, because the I mean, the pretext is religious instruction or religious education, but there's no metric for gauging their progress. So in one sense, when I was 16, like somebody, like the caller said, if I had an opportunity to get out of class, I would take an opportunity to get out of class. That's actually, I definitely would. So it's almost like there's kind of this situation there where they can kind of just get out of having actual school. Now, we do come back to the thing of whatever class they would be missing, they're still responsible for.
And if their parents sign them out, when I think of someone coming just to get out of class, my mind goes to a story in the Bible about Paul, who was, wrote most of the New Testament, and he said, he was talking about people who preached Jesus who didn't really believe in Jesus. They would just preach him because they were jealous of the attention he was getting, basically. And what he said was, I don't care why Jesus, I don't care if their motive is wrong, but I just rejoice in the fact that he's being preached. So I look at it that way. If a student comes with the wrong motive, it doesn't bother us at all, because God can still reach that student. Let me tell you a story.
Could God reach that student without him showing up?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, God can reach him any way he wants.
So
absolutely.
Then we don't really need it at all.
Well, God uses humans to teach his word. The Bible says if it's not preached, how are they going to learn? How are they going to learn?
Answer.
Really? Well,
yeah, because you just said that it doesn't matter if he's there, and then you're saying, but he should be there.
Oh, no, I said absolutely. God can use any method he wants. Absolutely. But
well,
God uses human beings, because he said, his Bible says, if there's no one to preach, how are they going to hear? You know what? There are many people who never hear a word, and they're converted by his word. They just read his word. There are people who...
Yeah, but that had to be people that had to write that and then change, into
humans
language.
wrote it,
yeah.
but God was the author.
Like, was there really a Jewish guy that was named Peter? Like, that's a little odd. I don't.
Really?
Why would he be named Peter? Like, why not, like, whatever, It should sound more...
Well, that's the English version, anyway.
English version. Yeah, and the idea that there are versions, like,
Simon.
I know people from India, they don't change their name.
Well, he was Simon Peter. Simon's more Jewish.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I guess...
I did want to tell one story.
Oh, go ahead.
May I?
Yeah.
Okay, about coming for the wrong reason. There was a boy in Chambersburg who came to one of the schools, and he was in 4th grade, and everyone in his class went to release time but him. And he didn't go, and for weeks and weeks they went, and then he found out they were having an ice cream party, which they usually don't give snacks and have parties like that so much, but they were, at this case, having an ice cream party. And he went home and told his mom, I want to go to release time. They're having an ice cream party. Can you sign me up? She did. He went, and I think it was near the end of the year, and he went back the next year. And he went for the wrong reason. He ended up believing in God, accepting Jesus as a Savior, went to a Christian college and is now a missionary.
So the moral of the story is, if you see a stranger with candy, go ahead and...
No. The moral of the story is, we don't care why they come. We feel like God's bringing them. God's bringing them.
The ice cream brought him. He would not have gone had it not been for the ice cream.
Right, but
Like, if a bar serves alcohol, people will show up. If they don't serve alcohol, no one's coming. It's clear. Kids like candy. Kids like ice cream. Like, obviously.
But see, human beings can't convert other human beings. Truly, I could never convert a human being. No, only God. Only God can really, truly get to your heart and convert you. I can share that because I myself was an atheist, like you. I don't know. Do you call yourself an atheist? What are you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I was one too. I can totally
What did you do
identify
wrong?
with you.
Where did you go wrong?
See, I
No,
don't
I'm
believe
just
I
kidding,
went
I'm just
wrong.
kidding, I'm just
But I'll
kidding.
tell you what, I can tell you this. I was not searching for God. I had no room in my life for God. I didn't care about God. And I can truly tell you, God got to me once along the Susquehanna River when I was walking. I used to live in Chipoke in Harrisburg. I don't know if you know it. It's a townhouse community when I was first married. I walked to Strawberry Square. That was where I worked. And I was walking along the river one day, and I just felt like all of a sudden God said, look around you. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Susquehanna River. And I felt like God said, look around you, Nancy. I made all this. Because I was like, there is no God. I was pretty adamant. I was pretty outspoken, and people who told me they believed in God, I was like, you know what? I don't need that crutch. Sorry. But so I can share that I personally was not looking for God. So I know that only God can bring anyone to him. Now,
But then why
did
you
other
have
human
release
beings
time?
help me?
Like, what is the point?
Because I'll tell you what, as I went on my journey to find out who this God was that I felt was speaking to me, he used people. And questionably, he used people because I would have been lost for a long time.
You just said people can't bring...
People cannot convert people. I mean, people cannot...
Except that
Did I say
people
could bring
need to
people
be
to God? I mean,
reached.
I don't... Sorry. I just
Okay.
missed what you said.
You're giving contradictory... like first you said that it'll be God. You meant that people won't be the ones to convert
Right.
other
People
people.
can
It'll be
teach
God who
others about
converts.
God.
But then you say, but God
has
needs
to draw
people to do
them.
it for him.
That's his plan.
Either...
He doesn't
Okay,
have
well, his
to, but
plan
that's
can't
his
be to
plan.
turn left and to turn right. He can only do... when they're mutually exclusive premises. So they
Really? I
can't
don't
both
agree with that.
work. Only one of them can work. So either God does it himself, or he needs...
He absolutely can do it himself, but he chooses to use people, and he does. But still, God, see, people can only give the message. It's God who draws the heart. I mean, people cannot change hearts.
Right.
God changes hearts.
But how do you know that, like, and then there's this, like, okay, like, let's say that we are really close to out of time.
Wow, the summer went fast. I was wondering if we run out of things to say.
But let's say that our concern here is a good faith effort, pardon the pun, would be for not, but on your part, on my part, and most people's part, like an Islamic program like this, or a Buddhist program, a Jewish program, any program. Let's say that anybody involved in this sort of program, what they want most is for whatever the truth about reality is to be what is given to the children. Like, how do you go about verifying what that truth is, and how do you, like, if that's what you're concerned with, how are you able to, at the end of the day, say, yes, this is the religion, this is the one. Like,
Right.
I'm not leading these children down the wrong
Right.
path. Like, how do you know that it might
How
be
do I
Islam?
know that I
it
know?
might be Scientology. It could be Lord Xenu came here on a spaceship, and that could be, like, how do you know? How do you verify that that's it? Like, how do you? Because if your concern is teaching the truth to
Right.
children who are going to follow whoever's got ice cream, like, how do you do that? You know, the responsibility there is so
Right.
great. Like,
I just believe it's the truth. I mean, we who teach it believe it's the truth, and we,
but how do you
I mean,
know? Like, how can you have such certainty about that?
It's just because God has told us. I don't know. It's
But-
just, but we know, you know. And
This is
let
a
me put it
stumbling
to you
block
this
for
way.
me.
Okay, well,
And-
then Paul said in the Bible about this, you know what? If it's not true, then we're to be pitied above all men. I mean, that's what Paul
Yeah,
said.
well, he's just throwing his hands. Well,
Yeah. No,
maybe
you
we're
know what
wrong.
also?
Yeah,
but you know
but-
what? We don't believe we're wrong.
But if you want
We
someone to
don't believe
base
we're
their
wrong.
life decisions on something, I mean, or to vote for certain political candidates, or to donate money to this charity over that charity, to support this war over
Can
that
I throw
war.
out one thing before
Sure.
we end?
Sure.
I decided to read the Bible in 90 days. I heard a challenge on the radio, and I just shared it with a friend last night, and she told me that actually the 90-day Bible came about from an atheist, because he determined to read the Bible in 90 days to disprove it, ended up believing in God and Jesus. And I thought,
It's all
you know
these-
what? I heard that last night, and I thought, you know what? That's the perfect thing to share today, because you know what? All I would say is I challenge you to try it yourself.
I
You know
have
what?
tried.
You've
It's
read the whole
insanely
Bible?
difficult to read it without being like, but okay, 3 pages ago you said the world began a different way. There's 2 versions of the way the world began in the first 10 pages, in the first chapter. Like, how does anybody read that and not say, wait a minute, there's some funny business going on here. It can't have begun this way and that way because, again, but here was something I noticed. The way we talk, you talk in anecdotes, and I don't, which is, I'm not criticizing anecdotes,
Okay.
but that's a very religious thing.
But give me an
I noticed.
example. Rather than just
For me to
say
give you
that.
an example would
Of
be
what
to
I
give you
said.
an anecdote. No, but like you said here about I wanted to tell you a story, the 90-day Bible thing,
Oh,
and that was an atheist. You know, like and that's very convincing to children. It's a very convincing way because it works on certain psychological. I don't know if I would say
Okay.
weaknesses, but
I
whatever.
thought I was just telling a story, but I wasn't
Well,
trying
yeah,
to
by
persuade
anecdote.
anyone. I just thought it was interesting to me. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that, you know, and I didn't.
It is.
Anyway.
And I have no way of verifying that any atheist, but
Right, and actually, I didn't verify it either. So.
which is fine.
I just heard that
you know.
story last night.
I don't mean to grill you too hard.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I've enjoyed this.
And we only have a couple minutes left, so I got to take care of some other things quickly.
Okay.
PA Nonbelievers is having a charity thing with the United Way. If you'd like to help United Way get out 3,000 packets of info for its packets of tax help for seniors and low-income folks, you can help us 7 to 10 p.m. Friday, this Friday, the 13th. And depending on how that goes, it'll also be 7 to 10 p.m. Tuesday, the 17th. If you'd like to help out with that, we'll have something on our Facebook later on as soon as I get home. So within an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, we'll have something on the PA Nonbelievers Facebook. We have on the screen right there. You also check out our website, and you can follow us on Facebook, and I think we have a Twitter, but I don't follow it, so I'm a bad example of that. What else do we have going on? We have something going on Martin Luther King Day. Yeah, you have to check our website and the Facebook. I know we can have the Facebook update a little faster than we can have the website.
The Reason Rally?
Oh yeah, there's the Reason Rally in Washington D.C. March 24th. That's a big American atheists and pretty much every other atheist group in America are having a big rally down there. And there was also the American Atheist Convention that weekend in D.C. You can look that up. It's probably reasonrally.com or just Google Reason Rally and American Atheists to learn more information about that. We'll have buses set up to go down there and organize for the local area for York, Lancaster, and Harrisburg, I guess. And we can also arrange rides to the buses and all that. So stay tuned to all of our media outlets for that. And we only got a couple seconds left here.
Say thank you and good night.
Oh, yeah, I want to thank Nancy for coming out.
Well,
It was,
I want to thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a lot of
It was
fun.
a pleasure. It was.
I managed to not attack you or anything.
You did not. You did not.
And you managed to
And
not
I hope
attack
I
me.
didn't to you.
Yeah. And I didn't bore you.
No, absolutely not. It was very pleasurable.
That was what I was worried most about. Okay, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode, and hopefully that will be just as engaging.